Welcome to the course that will take you from what is UX to I can totally design that, faster than you can say usability testing. Here we will talk about the essentials of UX design, UI design. I'm Alexey, I've been doing UX design for over a decade. I worked for dozens of startups and big companies like Upwork, for example. If you're ready to spend the next 15 minutes with me, then let's dive in. So what is UX design? User experience design or UX design is basically the art of making products that don't suck, products that are pleasure to use. It's about crafting the experiences that feel so natural that users even don't think about them. They just work. Think about your phone, from the moment you unbox it to the way that you instinctively know how to tap, swipe, pinch and do all these things. That's UX design in action, applied to the physical product. But it's the same with user interfaces. It's not just pretty icons, wallpapers, illustrations. That's all UI design, which we'll discuss later. It's how it feels, how it works, how your expectations are met while you are navigating through it. So there are some magic questions that every UX designer should ask before moving any single pixel. These questions are: who are we designing for? Spoiler, it's not you. What are they struggling with? And how can we make their lives easier? When we have all the answers in front of us, it will make our future work easier and focused on the real outcomes. A good product is the one that helps to solve the real problem and with minimal effort. Now let's get back to the differences between UX and UI design. Think about UX design as the overall experience, while UI design is just the visual part of it. UX design is focused on research, strategy, problem solving, while the main focus of UI design is colors, buttons, typography, layout, all things that you see on your screen. The main question of UX design is how this thing helps to solve the problem. UI design is asking, does this look good? As UX design is more complex and a bigger thing, it usually pays more as well. But UI design is still important though. So the bottom line, UI is the part of UX. It's like the frosting on the cake. You still need both, but UX is the whole experience, while UI is at the very top. As I said, UI is what you see with your eyes. You might ask yourself, what I'll do as a UX designer? From my experience, I can tell you that your days will include talking to real humans, making a user research, sketching wild ideas and developing user flows, building prototypes, testing them with users, presenting all that stuff to stakeholders who just want to move that button, and of course collaborating with developers, marketers and other team members. It's messy, it's fun, it never gets boring. And now let's talk about the design process. And the core thing in design process is the method called design thinking. If you learn well how design thinking works, it will become your new best friend. It's like the recipe for innovation. It has 5 steps that go in circle, but sometimes the order is broken, and if the situation requires that, you can skip one step and come back later, or do it on the next iteration, up to you. What are these steps? They are empathize, define, ideate, prototype and test. What does it mean, you may ask? Let's jump into details. So empathize means you have to feel the pain of the user or customer. For example, how do I buy a bus ticket on board if I forgot to buy it at the bus stop? The define step is figuring out which problem are you actually solving. In the ideate step, there is some fun starting to happen. Because you go wild with different ideas, it's basically a brainstorming session, and there are no bad ideas at this step. You can throw whatever you think is necessary. Sometimes it's even better to invite more people from your team to this brainstorming session. On the next stage, which is prototype, you build something that other people can click through. Usually it's clickable Figma prototype, or now prototypes built with the help of AI gaining popularity. And after you build this prototype, you are going to test and find out what works and what doesn't work. Watch real people use it and cry a little. Then this loop repeats until you are happy with the result. Usually design thinking is connected to the double diamond model. Maybe you've already heard of it. What is this double diamond? It's also a methodology of how to approach product development. The first diamond is discover and define. Here we interview users, send surveys, watch people use stuff, spy on competitors, legally of course, and then you turn these insights into user stories. What kind of user stories? Here is one, for example. As a busy father, I want to order groceries in 2 minutes and then get back to my life, get back to my work. Another example, I want the music adapt to my heart rate while I'm running. You can come up with all sorts of ideas. Oftentimes at this step you also create user personas. These are fictional characters that represent your real future users. You give them names, bio, their goals, their occupation. The more detailed the user is, the more empathize you to this fictional character. And on the second part of this first diamond, you define the problem, which means you need to write a clear problem statement. It has to be actionable. For example, users cannot find the check-in button. This will beat the experience feels a bit off, which is not clear and not actionable. The second diamond stands for develop and deliver, which answers the question how. Develop here doesn't mean that you are writing code. You map the user journey with every touch point. You prioritize features because not everything can go in the first version of the product. You sketch concepts, build prototypes and test them. And at the last step, which is deliver, you create specs for the dev team, build a design system, launch and watch the analytics, and based on this data you keep improving. Pro tip, this process can be adjusted. If you have tight deadlines, some steps can be skipped. Huge project, add more iterations, because it's not a prison, it's just a framework that is dedicated to help you build better products. Now let's talk about user flows and user journeys. What is the difference between these two things? User journey sees the things from the top level. Every user goes through certain stages. Your job is to make each of them more delightful. These stages are awareness, consideration, decision and retention. At the awareness stage, the user has just discovered that you exist. Maybe through an ad, a friend or Google search. Remember that first impression matters a lot, because at the next stage of consideration, the user will decide if they are going to use your product or not. User will start reading reviews, comparing you to the competitors, and at the third stage, they will decide if they are buying it or not. Your goal here is to make it frictionless. The last stage, retention, is if the user comes back to your product, if they recommend it to their friends, share their experience in social networks. Here is the real-world example of the user journey. Imagine a girl with the name Anna that is hungry. What is she going to do? She opens the app and sees the 3 restaurants nearby. She starts checking menus, prices, reviews, and with that in mind she picks the one where she finally goes. As the final move, she comes back to the app because last time the food was great, the reviews were legit, and she'll use it again. Maybe she will even leave the review for the last restaurant and recommend the app to her friends. If you want to create user journey, there is a template. It's a simple table, 5 by 5. And the rows describe what the user is doing, how they feel, their pain points, and opportunities for us how to solve these problems. And based on this information, people usually start building MVPs of their products. They dive deeper into details. And one of the ways to be more detailed is actually user flows. Because if user journeys are a bigger picture, user flows are step-by-step paths throughout your product. Usually for a product we have one user journey and multiple user flows. Sometimes user flows are also called flowcharts, and here is the example of this user flow. Every user flow consists of ovals that usually for start and end points, rectangles to describe actions or steps, diamonds are for decisions, yes or no, and arrows that connect everything together. User flows are important because they catch the problems before you start building. It also helps to understand the logic for both designers and developers, and it also helps to reduce complexity sometimes, because you see the places where you can remove, where you can simplify, and so on. Hope it was clear about user journeys and user flows. If not, you can always ask me questions. Now let's move to information architecture. Information architecture is basically how you organize stuff within the product so people can find it. Think of it as the skeleton of your product, the bones that hold everything together. There are three things that shape information architecture. They are content, context, and users. Content is what you have. Context is when and where people are using it, and users, who are they and what they need. The four pillars of information architecture are organization systems, labeling systems, navigation systems, and search systems. Usually we start building information architecture with research, by looking at similar products, by talking to users, making interviews. Then we're doing content audit, with all that information that we gathered on the first step. We list everything, we fill the gaps and remove the duplicates. On the next step we pick the structure. It's either a tree or a sequence. Most commonly designers are using a tree structure, which looks like this. In the tree structure that I'm showing here, we need to label everything, every piece of information, and when we building it, we also should keep in mind when the product grows 10x, our architecture should be able to handle it. This is not purely a designer's task. Usually it should be done together with developers who know the databases and how the content is structured within the app. And in my experience, I've needed this type of activity just maybe twice, when the product was super huge with a lot of touch points, and just to be able to process all of this, I needed the information architecture in front of my eyes. Now let's talk about more practical stuff: wireframing and prototyping, bringing your ideas to life. I believe you've seen a lot of wireframes already. Wireframes, they are like blueprints. They are messy and ugly on purpose, because during the wireframing phase you are exploring options. You are figuring out the structure, not winning the design awards. Wireframes must show where the stuff goes on the screen, sometimes but not always how users move between the screens, what happens when they click or tap. Why designers even build these wireframes? Because they are fast to change. You can just erase instead of rebuilding the whole design or the whole development. It gets everyone aligned before the emotions come into play, before you see the colors and real designs. And the most important thing is that it shows the problem when it's super cheap to fix. Some designers prefer to do low fidelity sketches with just boxes and arrows. Other designers like high fidelity wireframes with detailed spacing and padding, and even the font pairs are picked as in the future app. It may include actual UI patterns, but still they are not finished design. I'm usually trying to be somewhere in between. I use real fonts, I use proper spacing, but I don't dive into colors much, so my wireframes are still in grayscale. How do people make these wireframes? Some people prefer pen and paper, some people do it in Figma or Sketch or other apps. I would say that it depends. If you need something done really fast, maybe it's better to do paper sketching. If you want the wireframes to be connected to clickable prototype, then it might be better to start doing it in Figma. Just remember that you are designing the skeleton, not the skin. So get your structure right first. How does this wireframing process look like? At the very beginning you set the goals and answer the question what problems you are solving. Then you start sketching wildly, generating ideas without a lot of judgment. Then you pick the best out of this pile of ideas, get feedback on those, then move forward, make it clickable prototype, connect the wireframes all together, and at the end you test with the people and iterate, applying the feedback from this test. That's how you prepare the final prototype, which will be the starting point for your UI design work, the visual design. But how this usability testing is done? Usually it's done by observing people using your thing that you created. It could be brutal sometimes to watch it, but it's definitely essential. The testing could be moderated or unmoderated. The moderated testing is where you guide the session. You ask the follow-up questions, you ask why the user did this or that. It usually takes more time and you can do it with less participants at the same time, but more often it produces richer results. The unmoderated testing is where the user completes the task on their own. So you prepared everything, you sent the link, and then usually the testing software records all the user's actions, maybe even the user's thinking if it's with microphone. I've done it with the help of tools like user testing and Maze. Now let me give you the playbook how to run the usability test. I mean the moderated usability test. First of all, define what you are testing, the specific task, not everything at once. Write a script for yourself, what you'll be asking during the testing session. Recruit 1 to 4 participants. Usually that's enough, and I've never done more than 4. And depending on whether you are testing on site, then go to a quiet room, or if it's online with a Zoom call or Google Talk, you need to ask the permission of your participants to record the session, so you can look the video more carefully afterwards. During the session, make them comfortable. Usually the coffee helps. Explain that they cannot do anything wrong. Ask them to think aloud, especially if they have any doubts about any action. Stay neutral, no good job or anything like that, and take notes like crazy. After the session, you can review the recordings, you can write more notes, edit those that you've taken, and you start to look for patterns in the user behavior. 1 person confused, write it. 4 people confused, fix it. Then you prioritize these fixes, and after some time you repeat the usability testing with the newer version. This is how it's done, not just with the rough prototypes, but with the live app, live website as well. My advice: practice this session with your friends or with your mom first, before testing with other people. It will make you more comfortable with the process. There is also such technique called guerrilla testing, where you approach strangers on the street or in the coffee shop and you ask them to go through your creation. The idea is pretty much the same, but be very short. You can also buy a little present, a coffee or a snack for people who decide to take part. That was it on usability testing. Now let's talk about design systems. What is a design system? Think of it as a Lego instruction manual meets the branding guidelines. It is your single source of truth, a library of components, colors, fonts, UI elements, and rules that keep everything consistent. Why bother about all this? Because without a design system, your product suddenly will start looking as a Frankenstein. Every screen starts to look slightly different, developers reinvent the wheel constantly, and onboarding new designers takes forever. With a design system, you get consistency across hundreds of screens, faster design and development, easier collaboration, and scalable growth. The three main ingredients of a design system are style guide, component library, and documentation. In the style guide you can find colors, typography, spacing, and grid systems. In the components library you put buttons, drop-downs, inputs, basically all UI components, icons, and illustrations. The documentation answers the question what to use when, how to customize it, do's and don'ts with examples. And if it's a top-class design system, it could even include the code snippets for developers. Some of the most famous design systems that you've probably heard of are Apple Human Interface Guidelines, Material Design, Shopify, Polaris, and there are tens, if not hundreds of them. The design systems are worth developing and maintaining when you have a product with 20 plus screens, or if your team consists of 3 or more designers, or you know that the product will grow beyond these numbers. Don't let perfection become the enemy. Start small. A basic colors and buttons library beats no system at all. Congratulations, you've made it through the crash course. Here is what you do next. Pick a project, redesign the app you hate or websites that you use frequently. Do the research, interview 3 to 5 potential users. Map the user journey. Then pick several more complex parts of this user journey and create user flows. Then wireframe the solutions, low fidelity, fast and iterative. And test it with real people, even your friends and family counts. My advice to you, always keep learning. Follow UX designers on X or LinkedIn, subscribe to my channel, read books and articles, for example on Nielsen Norman Group website, and start building a portfolio. Even fake projects are fine to start. If you want more practice and if you want the UX community, consider joining my UX group. There will be more practical stuff, how to use AI, how to design landing pages and web apps. And there are also weekly calls with me where I can give some critique and answer your questions. There are some final thoughts that I would like to add. UX design is part science, part art, part detective work. It's challenging, but it's rewarding and it's constantly evolving. So the best UX designers are those who are curious and who are obsessed with making things better for people. If that sounds like you, then you are in the right field. Now you can check more videos on my channel and go forth and design great products. The world needs more of those. See you!